Okay, if you guys remember, and hopefully you guys bring this back up, this is where we left off with the Drake family budget. And they were trying to save for a home, Diane and Glenn apparently. And they have some income and expenses that differ by month. They want to use a savings account and a home savings account to try to save for a home. If we look at what's happening here, I believe on the bottom we have said that we are going to transfer at this point $800 every month from the savings account to the home account, right? You guys recall that? That's where we're at. So that is all fed off of. There's a little place where we plug in. It looks like L9 down here is what we are transferring from savings to our home account every month. So L10, I'm sorry. So I guess we also want to keep track. Let's build this out. We also want to keep track of our home from our home, and I think our starting balance in our home account, I believe, is 0. But let's use, instead of using 0, let's use K6. I think because K6 is, if we do change it, it's always better to use a reference. So let's use equal K6 here, and that'll put in 0. Okay, and then what do you think we want to do from deposit from main? What do we want to do deposit from main? What reference do we want to put into this cell? What do I want to use there? Where's the money that's coming out of my savings? Yes?
Transfer from home.
Okay, transfer from home. So in this case, that would be what, Robbie? That would be C39, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, C39. And then I guess my starting balance plus my deposit from main would equal, so I'm going to say equal C41 plus C42. Okay. Now I can copy this over, but there's really an issue because this is fed from there one time. It's kind of the primer value. So in February, what is my starting balance? What is my starting balance for February? My starting balance is going to be what?
800.
Is going to be 800, but I'm not going to plug in 800. What am I going to plug in?
C43.
Okay, I think it's C43. So C43. And then I think, these two things are okay to copy over because they're going from above. So I'm just going to copy those over. So it looks like that looks good. So 0, 800, 800, 800, 800, 1600. Now what do I want to drag over or autofill the whole way to December? What selection do I want to drag over the whole way for December then? Yes?
D41 through 43.
Yeah, let's take those 3 cells, drag them over, and at the end of this, okay, looks like we have $9,600. And that looks right. 800 times 12, $9,600. All good here? We all good? If we go up above, it says the starting balance, the ending balance. I guess we can plug those in now. The ending balance of our monthly savings account looks like it's N40. So I'm going to put in equal N40 here. And of our home account at this point, looks like it's N43. So I'm going to plug that in here. And I'm going to sum this. Everyone here. All right, now we're going to move on to something called conditionals, okay? And let's talk about what a conditional is. If anyone has ever taken a programming class or any kind of logic class, what a conditional is used for branching logic, okay? It's, if then is the logic. So if some condition is true, we're going to do this thing. If not, we're going to do something else. And that's the formula for if statements. And I want to go to the slides because I want to show you kind of the structure of a if-then statement. And then we're going to build it into our spreadsheet here. So if I go to Module 3 PowerPoints, and let's find our if statement structure. Okay, it's a very important tool, and we're only going to kind of scratch the surface of it in this module, but later we're going to get to embedded ifs and all those good things. So let me see if I can find it here. Autofill, autofill. Okay, so logical functions or conditionals build decision-making capability into a formula. And really, it comes down to binary decisions. Something's either true or false. If it's true, we do something. If it's false, we do something. The function that supports this in Excel is the if statement, okay? And basically, these are the comparison operators that we're going to use. Obviously, for equal, we're going to use the equal sign. There's a greater than sign, a less than sign. If it's greater than or equal to, you put those two things together. I think you use the greater than symbol, then equal, but I think it works the other way too. I think if you do equal and greater than, it works as well. And then not equal is probably the one that maybe you haven't seen. You know, not equal, we typically use an equal sign with a slash through it, but it's not easy to make that on your keyboard. So what programming languages do is they use the less than symbol and then the greater than symbol. That's so A does not equal to B1 is what this is saying. Okay, this little symbol here. And the structure of an if statement, okay, looks like this in Excel. If, and then there's some logical condition. That's the condition that's being tested. If, parenthesis, the first argument is the logical test. If that is true, it does immediately what's after, the next argument. It places that in that cell. Okay, so if it's not true, it does what's after that. Okay, so I guess the best thing to do is just kind of turn this on. Okay, so let's go into Excel. Let's go to a blank sheet over here, or another blank sheet. Let's do, I don't know, let's do autofill in a column. I don't know, just down the, and I'm going to do fill series. So I have 1 through 10. Okay, so in C1 in my case, let's program our if statement. I'm going to say if, let's make this simple. Let's say if the number to the left of it is greater than 5, I want to put big. If not, I want to write small. Okay, so that's what I want to put in this cell. So if B1 is greater than 5, what immediately comes after this, and because it's text I want to put in here, I'm going to use double quotes. I'm going to write in, God bless you, I'm going to write in large or big or whatever you'd like to do, comma, and then this is the condition I do when it's false. I'm going to put in here small. So what's going to happen here is it's going to analyze B1. If it's greater than 5, it's going to do whatever's next, and it's going to put in the text large. If it isn't greater than 5, if it's false, if that condition's false, it's going to put in the text small. If I hit enter, okay, you see it says small. Let's just copy or drag this down. Okay, and you'll see, because it's using relative addressing, it's checking all those, and for the first 5 it says small. For the second 5 it says large. Now, when we use text, when the results are text, we want it to be, we use double quotes. But I could have also done this. I could have said, I don't know, let's put small here, type small here, and large here. And if I go back to this function to change it, instead of putting in large and small, I'm going to use the references. So I'm going to say if B1 is greater than 5, put in A1, else put in A2. Okay, notice I didn't use the double quotes here because it's a reference. Okay? Reverse it. Yeah, right? Okay. So it should be A2, comma A1.
You have to make it as in.
That's right, I do. So what Lorraine said is we have to make the A1, A2 aspect of it absolute. Why? Because when I copied it down, you saw I got some ugly numbers because when I copied it down, it said, hey, look, put in C1, and nothing's in C1. So I had to make that A1 and A2 absolute, so it's always referencing that. The other thing we can do, okay, that's text, but the other thing we can do is we can put in formulas in that if this condition is true, put in this formula, this formula is true, put in this formula. So let's use the same logic. Let's say if B1 is greater than 5, we're going to take B1 and add 10. Okay. And we'll say if B1 is less than 5, then let's take B1 and for whatever reason subtract 10. And I could have done anything. I could have, multiplied by a tax rate or whatever. But I said if B1 is greater than 5, what I want in this cell is take B1 and add 10. If it's not, take B1 and subtract 10. So if I hit enter here, okay, 1 minus 10 is -9, and then 10 plus 10 is 20, right? So for the first 5, it's subtracting 10. For the second 5, it's adding 10. Okay, so we can put in formulas there. We can embed things, and we can actually embed if statements. We're not going to get into that quite yet because it gets a little convoluted, but we could do that. The other thing I like, because I was a programmer at one point in my life, I oftentimes do use like equal if and just start typing away. But a lot of people, and that's fine, do like to use the insert function. So you may use that as well. Okay, so if you want to go to if under here and click OK, you can do it in here as well. It says logical test, value if true, value if false, and it kind of builds it for you, right? We saw that earlier. So however you like to do it, there's no right way, no wrong way, but whatever you like to do. So let's go back to, you guys good? Any questions on that? Let's go back to our budget then for who is this? Diane and Glenn. Okay. And we are concerned that some points our savings account gets very low. For example, in August, it gets down to $375, which that doesn't give us much cushion to say we have some kind of issue. Or perhaps, even 1145 isn't good. So what I want to do is that instead of transferring $800 every month, I want to say, well, let's change it. And what we're going to do, and what the book suggests, there's a lot of different ways we could do it. We're only going to transfer that $800 if our cash flow is positive in a given month. Okay, so only if our net cash flow is positive. So if you look at 33 is the net cash flow. So January is a bad month. We're putting out $2,000 more than we're bringing in. it looks like, I don't know if that's August, that looks like a bad month as well. So I want to put logic into this transfer to home such that it only transfers in whatever's in L10 if we have net cash flow of positive that month, okay? So we're going to do that with an if statement, right? So let's put in, that's L10, so let's delete that, and I'm going to put in equal if, and how do you think I want to write this? If what? Someone give me the syntax that I want to put in. Okay, if C33 is greater than 0, and that's fine being relative because I'm going to copy it over, it's going to look at D33. If C33 is greater than 0, comma, well, not 8, I don't want to put in 800, what do I want to put in, Lorraine? Because I could change this value. I could say, well, let's go big. I could change it to 900 or 400. I'm going to use that cell. Remember that L10? So I'm going to put in L10 here. You're right now we have 800 in here, but let's put in L10. And very good, we need to make L10 absolute. Okay, and we could say, you know, if it's net cash flow is 0, I don't know, we could say just transfer half of whatever's in L10, or which we would do what, L10 times 0.5 or a quarter of it. I think the book suggests not transferring anything that month, so you make no progress. So I'm just going to put in 0. So what this is saying is, hey, if net cash flow is positive, great, do the transfer for that month to the home account. If not, if it's negative cash flow, let's take a month off from this transfer. I hit enter. Okay, I drag this over, and you'll see the logic work, because what happens now, it says, hey, in January I don't do the transfer, in August I don't do the transfer, and what's nice is because we have everything, you know, based on other cells, you know, everything out here worked out as well. Okay, we didn't transfer anything, so, you know, 800. Now we only have 8,000 at the end. But if we look at our savings account balance, our ending balance in our savings account, there's not really any values there that scare me, right? I have at least, looks like the minimum I have in that account is nearly $2,000, so that gives me a good enough cushion. Let's change the methodology a little bit. Let me think of something. Let's say if, well, let's do what I said earlier. Let's say if net cash flow is greater than 0, transfer L10. Let's say if it's not, if it's negative, we're still going to do a transfer, but let's do 50% of whatever's in L10. Okay, do you know what I'm saying? Instead of not transferring anything, let's bring over half of what we intended to bring over. So what would change here in my formula? What would change? The 0 would change from 0. Now it would be what? Because this is the false.
L10 absolute.
L10 absolute
Times 0.5.
times 0.5. And I didn't make L10 absolute, but I will. And if I drag that over, you see now those 2 months that were zeros are now 400. And I look at this, you know, I end up with a little bit more money in my home account. A little scary there in January, I only have $1,500, and only in August only $1,175. Yeah, but I guess I could live with that. Okay. And the beautiful thing, you know, about building something like this in a spreadsheet and making sure that you're using, you know, addresses instead of hard coding in numbers, you know, is we can change things. We can do, and we'll talk about this later. There's something in Excel called Scenario Manager. You can run multiple scenarios. But if we just visually look at this, what if we say, I don't know, we're going to try to go big. What happens if we put in $1,000 a month? What happens? Well, we're going to end up with more in our ending balance of our account, obviously. But if we look at our ending balance of our savings account, you know, there's a month here that it's negative, and you know, I don't want to go borrow money off my parents anymore. Okay, so we have some issues there. How would I maybe make that stand out so that if it does go negative, I can see it automatically. I don't have to like look at the numbers. What would you suggest I do, Dan?
Conditional.
Yeah, I should probably put a conditional format on that. And a lot of times, instead of doing that row by row, you take something like this when we're talking about money, I can apply that conditional format to every damn cell on the spreadsheet. If there's ever a negative number, make it pop out, because negative numbers are generally bad when you're talking about budgets, right? Yes, it is. Okay. So any questions on conditionals? And we just kind of scratched the surface of what we can do with that. Okay, let's go over to it wants us to look at date functions. We can look at date functions and financial functions. Let's go over, we'll stay in the same sheet. Let's go into I1, and let's enter the label current date. Oops. I got a cap lock on, I'm sorry. Let's merge and center I1 through J1. Wants us to left align that. Let's go over to K1. Let's go over to formulas. And let's go down to date and time. So click on date and time. And the function it wants us to add in there is today. Okay. And you'll see it gives me a little message. Today has open bracket, close bracket, because it takes no arguments. It is what it is. I click OK, and what it'll do, whoops, gotta make that bigger, I guess, is it'll put in today's date. Okay, so always this spreadsheet will have today's date in, whatever that might be. Okay, tomorrow I bring it up, instead of me having to change 1/24/2014 to 1/25, it'll automatically do that. Other date functions, let's just kind of peruse those. There's ones that tell you if a certain day is a weekday. If you have dates, and it'll tell you if it's a weekday. There are ones that will return, now can return things in either the time right now, or the date right now. So it can have the time, that keeps up the time. Network days, there's what are the ones that I used here? Day is also one that tells you like the day of the week. So some of these are useful. Oftentimes, like I said, what's important about functions is not that you know every one of them, but that you can use the search function, find them, for your purpose, and then use them, interpret the arguments and use them appropriately. Okay, let's move on then to some financial functions. Okay, and the one that we're going to use is PMT, okay, which is payment. So we're going to work with Diane and Glenn again, and they want to talk about a loan as well. So let's go to the loan analysis worksheet in this workbook. Okay, so let's enter an interest rate here. Let's put in 6%. And notice I put in 0.06. I put in decimal, and it's formatted percentage-wise, so it's set at 6%. So I entered in 0.06. Let's enter 12. So we're going to pay on this monthly. So let's put in 12 for the payments per year. Now that 6% is an annual percentage rate. So we want to figure out what the rate is over those 12 periods, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take B3 and divide it by B4. That's what, and we wouldn't have to do this specifically. We could put it right into the function, and that's probably what I would do with this because that's how the function wants it. But this tutorial is trying to show you that that's what this rate needs to be. So I'm going to take B3 divided by B4. Okay, so every rate is basically, every period is basically 0.5%. Number of years, let's say this is going to be a 20-year mortgage or 20-year loan. And the total number of payments, which is, you see the red, those are like the arguments that we need for this payment function, and I'll show you that in a second. The total number of payments then for every month over 20 years would be what? 12 times 20 or 240. But instead of doing that, I'm going to put into this, I'm going to put into equal B4 times, B4 times B6. And they want to borrow 200,000. Okay. The function we're going to use here is equal PMT. Okay. I'll tell you what. Let's use the interface. So I'm going to go up here under formulas, and it's a financial formula, and go to PMT. And we could just type this in as well, okay? But let's use this, since the first time we're using this formula, let's do this. What's optional up here and what's required? How many arguments are required? How many arguments are optional here?
3 required.
3 required. Rate, number of periods, and present value, future value, and type. I can't remember the type. It has something to do with. I can't remember what the type has to do with. I can't remember what that is right now. But anyways, let's put this in. What do we want to put in for rate? Okay, we don't want to put in 6% because the rate is applied over every period. So what do you think we want to put in for rate here? Yeah, we want to put in the annual rate divided by the number of periods. So I'm going to put in B5. So I'm going to click the little spreadsheet, reference B5, click the little drop down, and it puts in B5. I could have just typed B5, but clicking is easier than keyboard. The number of periods, okay? Not the number of years, but the number of payment periods. In this case is B7. And the present value, or the principal value, I'm sorry, not present value. The principal value of this loan is 200,000. I click OK. And it shows me the payment. And what do you notice about the payment? About the value of the payment? It's negative. Yeah, it's negative. It's a negative number. Payments are typically, it's considering it from our standpoint as the borrower. You know, not if as the bank, it's kind of coming in, but for the borrower, it's coming out. What's nice about this now, and I'll talk about scenario analysis later, but we can say, okay, we can do some what-if analysis. What if we do this over 30 years? Okay, we can see that our payment will go down. Okay, if we have a worse rate, 0.08, you can see our payment will go up.
Dr. Miko?
Yes.
What did you put in the future value?
0, nothing.
0.
Yes, that's an optional one. That is used, I believe, if there's like a balloon payment or something like that, like you're trying to, like instead of, I assume 0, but if you say, hey, we're trying to go down to $10,000, and then there's going to be a balloon payment at the end of this, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At the very end of a loan.
Did you put anything in the type?
No, that's optional as well. And what that's used for, let me see if I can see this. I believe that's used for the type of loan, like the way they do the daily interest. You can take the rate divided by 360 or the rate divided by 365. I believe it's related to that.
Yeah, nothing's, like, I hit enter and it's coming up, like, with nothing really. It's like, it says like name and cell B10 for me. Quote unquote weird.
Let me see. So go to that cell. That's it. Okay, you have PMT plus PMT there, see that?
Yeah, because I have trouble with that.
And you don't need that, it's probably gonna be okay, but you don't need that. There you go.
Thank you.
The reason you were getting that is you had PMT twice, so it was trying to invoke that function. The one time you had the argument you gave it, the other time you didn't give it any arguments, and it needs 3 arguments at least. So it's not going to work. Let's go over. I'm going to show you something. Let's go back to our 6%. Let's make it 10 years. Let's make it short. Let's make it a car loan. Let's make it 5 years. And let's make it a car loan, a reasonable car loan. So let's make it $30,000. Okay. So let's go over here and let's write payment. You guys know what a coupon book is? You know what a coupon book? What's a coupon book, Joe?
What was the content?
That's exactly how my 9-year-old would explain that to me when we were doing homework. As far as financial instruments, what's a coupon book? Do you know? As far as car loans,
Oh, no,
they don't do that anymore. Okay, my first car loan, you know, you'd get actually a book. It had like little slips of paper in it, and you'd rip out your first payment. You rip out, you pay, you know, like $300. You pay a check for $300, and on that coupon say you're paying $300, and it also tell you, you know, $280 of it is going to principal and $20 of it's going to interest, right? And the next one, maybe $281 is going to principal and $19 going to service the interest. You guys know what I'm talking about? You know, you ever see that? Like what they call a
First National Bank.
what's that?
First National Bank.
Yeah, old people still like them. So if you have an older aging demographic, they still want them because that's what they're used to. What we want to build here is we want to show, you know, how much of a payment is going to service interest and how much is going to service principal. You guys know what I'm talking about here? Yes? And I can't remember if it's called a payoff table or something like that. But let's just, what do we have? We have 12 months at 5 years. So we're going to have 60 payments. So let's go 1 through 60. And obviously, I'm not going to type in 1 through 60. I'm going to use my powers of autofill. Whoops. Okay, put in 1 through 60. I'll call that payment number. Let's put in here payment. Let's write principal. Let's write interest. Okay, you guys with me? All right, so what is our payment every month for 60 months? Is going to be what here? It's going to be, yeah, and I'm not going to put that in. I'm going to write what? Equal B10, okay? And I'm going to copy that to, I'm going to fill that down. Because I know every month, that's what I'm going to be paying. Now, when you pay $579.98, does it all come off the top? You know, is it going to be for after the end of the first month? Your principal is no longer going to be. It's not going to be $30,000 minus $579.98, is it? Why not? Why not, Zach?
There's interest.
Yeah, there's interest, and some of that payment goes to service interest. So let's try to break that out. Okay, let's try to break that out. Well, there's two functions that we can use. God bless you. The first one that gives us the principal portion is equal P, PMT. Okay? And this one has how many required arguments? How many required arguments does it have? 4. It has the rate, which we know what the rate is, right? It's going to be over here. It's B5. It has the period, okay? It needs to know what period this payment's for. This is period what? This one happens to be period 1. The next one's going to be period 2. The NPR, the number of periods, is, and we know that. The PV is, we know that. So let's type that in. Let's say the rate is B5 in this case. The period is D3 in this case. The number of periods is B7. And the principal value, or the present principal value is B8. Now, I'm going to copy that formula down. But what about that formula? What do I need to do with the cells? What's going to be absolute and what's going to be relative? What do I want to make absolute? What do I want to make relative? Everything's going to be absolute except what? D3. Okay, everything's going to be absolute except D3. So I'm going to highlight the whole damn thing and hit F4. Then I'm going to highlight D3 and turn it off with F4. And knowing what you know about time value money, before I drag this down, what's going to happen is the next principal payment going to go up or go down? It's going to go up. Every payment, more of that payment goes to servicing principal, right? So let's drag this down. Okay. That last payment looks $577.10 went toward principal. Okay. Now I could figure out what part's going to interest by saying payment minus principal is the part that's servicing interest, right? But let's do it independently. Okay, let's do it independently. We use PPMT for principal. Let's use IPMT for this. And it's the same format, except the function's IPMT. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this over. I'm going to copy F3 over to G3. And I'm going to change a couple things. I'm going to change the P in PPMT to an I. And I'm going to change E3 because back to D3. Because it wants the same things. It wants the rate, it wants the period, it wants the number of periods, and it wants the present value. The same things that PPMT wants. So why not, why retype it in? I'm just going to do that. You guys follow me? I feel like I'm losing people. We only have 2 minutes, so I don't feel like I'm losing people. So I hit enter. Okay. And it says $150 of that first payment is just going to the bank. That's how banks make money right there. Boom. Right? Just on your $30,000 Toyota.
I didn't get that, sorry.
What did you get, Beatrice?
The same number. I didn't change anything because I didn't, I wasn't quick
You wanna look at it?
Yeah.
Instead of PPMT, it's IPMT. And it still should have the B5, you just copied it over, it still should have B5, B7, B8. And that E3, there's an E3 in there now because we copied it over. You need to make that D3. Because we want to reference the number of periods. And you guys can drag that down at the bottom as well. Drag that down to the bottom. So the first payment, $150 of servicing interest. At the end, only $2 of servicing interest. And if I add those two numbers each time, what are they going to add to? The payment, right? So how about the balance of my loan? Okay. The balance of my loan after this first payment is going to be what? It's going to be equal B8. And I'm going to put plus here. Why am I going to put plus? I'm going to put plus whatever went to principal. I'm going to put plus, not minus.
It's a negative.
It's already negative. So plus F3. So after the first payment, I still owe $29,570.02. The second payment, I'm going to owe H3 plus, what is that, F2? Yeah, F2. And now I'm going to be able to, not F2, F4. And then if I drag this down, that is how your loan gets down to 0. Okay? And this wasn't in the book, I just added this in. Nico add-on. What's cool about this, let's auto sum. Let's go down to G63 and auto sum that column. So what's real important, you know, some of you guys probably have personal finance with Father Malachi. What's real important in any loan, you know, people, when you go to a car dealership, what do they want to talk? What do they want to talk? Price, but yeah, but you know, they try to bury the price, and what do they want to talk? They want to talk, what payment can you afford, right? That's what they want to talk, like, payment can you afford, like over 7 years, right? They don't, you know, in 8 years your car's worthless, but you're still paying for it, right? And really what you need to look at, right, and I say, I don't want to talk, and I'm smarter than you, I don't say that, because that's arrogant, but I know that stuff, right? I understand time value of money, and think of how important that rate is, those kind of things are. Like, if we just take this rate, okay, so we're, on this 5-year car loan, we're paying $4,800 just in interest to the bank. That's how banks make money, obviously. If I take this rate, you know, and just go up, just go down, let's go up 8%. You see that's going to go up, oops. You know, that principal, that interest I pay back, it's going to go up to $6,500. So it doesn't sound like much, 2 percentage points, but look, that's almost, you know, another $1,500. If I get a nice rate, you know, like 3%, you know, it takes me the whole way down to $2,300. So I pay like half the interest, which is, you know, significant. Having a good credit rating is important for all those kind of things. But, you know, think about this. This is only over a $30,000 car loan. Imagine your mortgage, you know. When you buy a house that's $200,000 over a 30-year mortgage, I'm telling you, guess how much interest you end up paying?
$100,000.
What's that?
100,000.
Yeah, 6 figures for sure. Sometimes the same as their purchase price, right? And these are decisions, you know, and I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but these are decisions, you know, that can make your life a lot better, make your retirement a lot better, if you just understand, you know, these kind of concepts, time value of money. All right, we're done with Module 3 walkthrough. Sorry, I'm keeping you guys late. But on Monday, we're gonna take that in-class quiz, and then we're gonna use the rest of it to start on the cases. And I will, maybe help you on the in-class one. We'll start with that one first, make sure you understand. I don't think these are that hard. We'll use Monday's class as a lab. I'll come around and help you. Have a good weekend, stay warm.
So we don't submit the one we just did, do we?
No, you're not submitting, oh, damn, you made me do that. No, don't submit the one we just did. Looks good.
I'll just come out to you.
I won't be there tonight.
What are you doing right now? Your class?
I have the break this hour.
Can I just make a copy then? Yeah. What are you doing? Interesting.
I think what I wanna do here is this one's gonna be this balance plus F4. Because you have this, and then this goes to the principal. And now, if you drag that down to the end. Like, just drag the, you know what I'm saying? So go to that one, drag the corner, there you go.
It says, it goes from tutorial.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so everything else is right.
Okay.